Story 1. I desperately needed to escape the city's relentless hum. As a writer, I craved silence, a place where inspiration could truly bloom. That's why I booked a secluded old Airbnb cottage nestled deep within the Catskills, hoping for a peaceful retreat. This happened to me. The cottage was charmingly antique, smelling faintly of old wood and forgotten memories. It had creaky floorboards and windows that looked out onto an endless sea of trees. It felt perfectly isolated, a sanctuary from the modern world I was trying to outrun. After unpacking, I decided to explore. The living room was filled with curiosities, dusty paperbacks, a slightly out-of-tune piano, and shelves crammed with forgotten knickknacks. My eyes scanned for anything that might spark a story idea. Tucked away on a dusty, forgotten shelf behind a stack of old, yellowed magazines, I found it, an antique, leather-bound guest book. Its cover was worn smooth, almost black with age, hinting at countless stories held within its pages. My writer's curiosity immediately piqued. I pulled it out, feeling the cool, dry weight of it in my hands. This wasn't just a record, it felt like a relic. I settled into a worn armchair, eager to delve into the lives of past occupants. The initial entries were charmingly mundane: vacation anecdotes, praises for the scenery, tips for local hikes. Names, dates, and cheerful farewells filled the first few pages, a tapestry of happy memories, nothing to suggest the horror to come. Then, a shift. I found an entry written in elegant but firm script dated decades ago. Unending peace found here. I shall never want to leave this place. The intensity of the words made me shiver, a strange contrast to the cheerful notes surrounding it. I dismissed it as an overly dramatic guest, perhaps a poet, but another, more recent entry echoed the sentiment. This place holds you. It truly never lets you go. This one was scrawled in a hurried hand, almost frantic. My unease stirred. I tried to shake off the growing unease, telling myself it was just my imagination, fueled by the isolation. I closed the book, deciding a walk in the crisp autumn air would clear my head, yet a prickle remained at the back of my neck. Later that evening, I noticed a small detail. The bathroom door, which I distinctly remembered closing, was ajar. Just a crack. I told myself it was the settling of an old house, a draft, nothing more, but I checked the lock twice. That night, I heard them for the first time, faint whispers, barely audible, like leaves rustling or wind through the eaves. I strained to listen, but they faded as quickly as they came. My heart thumped a nervous rhythm against my ribs. The next morning, the guest book was open on the coffee table. I remembered leaving it on the shelf. A chill ran through me. Had I put it back? My memory felt hazy, clouded by the previous night's unsettling sounds. I picked it up, feeling a strange compulsion to read on. The whispers from the night before seemed to echo in my mind, urging me. This guest book was becoming a morbid fascination, a dark magnet I couldn't resist. The entries grew more erratic, less coherent. One page was filled with repetitive loops of the word stay. Another, a child's shaky handwriting, simply said, "He watches." My blood ran cold. This was no longer just curious. My peaceful retreat was transforming into something sinister. The cottage, once a sanctuary, now felt like a cage. Every shadow seemed to hold a secret, every creak a warning. I started locking my bedroom door at night. The guest book, once a source of amusement, was now my morbid obsession. I couldn't stop reading, flipping through the pages, drawn deeper into the unsettling narratives. It felt like I was piecing together a dark, incomplete puzzle. One entry, almost entirely smudged, contained only 2 legible words: "I can't go." It was a desperate plea, etched with such force it had almost torn the fragile paper. The air in the room seemed to thicken. Sleep became a luxury I rarely afforded. I'd wake suddenly, convinced I heard distinct footsteps upstairs, despite knowing I was alone. The sound was heavy, deliberate, as if someone was pacing directly above my head. The feeling of being observed became a constant, prickly sensation on my skin. I'd spin around, convinced I'd catch a glimpse of something, but there was never anything there, just empty space, thick with unseen eyes. The guestbook itself seemed to hum with a low, almost imperceptible vibration when I held it. Sometimes I'd find it open to a new, unnerving page I hadn't seen before, a page I was certain I hadn't left open. The whispers intensified. They were no longer just faint rustles, but distinct, overlapping murmurs just beyond the edge of intelligibility. They seemed to come from the corners of the room, from behind the walls, from everywhere. I tried to rationalize it all: lack of sleep, an old house, my overactive imagination. But the rational explanations felt flimsy, crumbling under the weight of the undeniable strangeness that permeated the cottage. The temperature in the cottage often dropped without reason, a sudden, bone-chilling cold that seemed to originate from nowhere. It wasn't a draft, it was a profound, unnatural cold that made my breath visible. I began to leave the guestbook closed, even trying to hide it under a pile of linens. But I would always find it back on the coffee table, sometimes even open to a new, disturbing entry, defying logic. The entries now spoke of the others and the waiting. The handwriting was increasingly frantic, smeared, sometimes appearing wet. It felt like I was reading the final, desperate thoughts of trapped souls. One morning, I found a page filled with a single, crudely drawn stick figure, its eyes wide and hollow. Below it, a single word, mine. It was childish, yet utterly terrifying. This was no prank. I started checking the cottage's history online, desperate for answers. I found vague mentions of previous owners who simply disappeared or moved on without explanation. No deaths, no tragedies, just vanishings. The whispers were now constant, a low thrum beneath the silence. Sometimes I thought I heard my name, just a fleeting syllable carried on an unseen current. It was playing with my mind, eroding my sanity. I tried to ignore it, to focus on my writing, but the words wouldn't come. My manuscript lay untouched, a stark reminder of my failed retreat. All I could think about was the guestbook, its pages calling to me. The feeling of being watched was no longer a sensation, it was a certainty. I could feel eyes on me from every corner, every shadow. I was never truly alone in that cottage, not anymore. This was a living, breathing presence. I opened the guestbook again, my hands trembling. Near the middle, a fresh entry stood out, stark against the faded ink. It was written in a clear, desperate hand: "Don't write your name, don't let it keep you." Below that chilling warning, a frantic, barely legible scrawl added: "They're here, they never left." The words blurred before my eyes, not from tears, but from sheer terror. A cold dread seeped into my bones. The cottage grew colder, heavier, as if an immense weight had settled upon it. The air became thick, oppressive, making it difficult to breathe. Every sound seemed amplified, every silence deafening. Shadows danced in my peripheral vision, just beyond the reach of my direct gaze. They coalesced into fleeting shapes, then dissolved, leaving only the unsettling impression of something that had just been there. The whispers I'd dismissed now coalesced into distinct, desperate pleas. Faint, guttural moans filled the air, a chorus of palpable despair. I could almost make out words, fragments of agony. I knew then, with chilling certainty, that I wasn't alone. The previous occupants hadn't just moved on. They were still here, trapped, their tormented voices echoing through the pages of that cursed book. Panic began to set in, a cold, creeping dread that tightened its grip on my chest. I had to leave. I had to escape this place before I became one of them, another voice etched into those ancient pages. I tried to pack, but my hands shook uncontrollably. Every rustle of clothing, every bump against my suitcase sounded like a warning. The cottage groaned around me, a living, breathing entity. The guest book lay open on the coffee table, almost glowing with a faint internal light. It seemed to pulse, beckoning me, its pages a gaping maw ready to swallow me whole. I couldn't look away. The air grew heavier, the whispers louder, swirling around me like a maelstrom of despair. I felt them gathering, pressing in, their unseen forms coalescing in the deepening shadows of the room. They were ready. That night, a violent storm descended upon the Catskills. Rain lashed against the windows, thunder rattled the old cottage, and then, with a final flicker, the power died, plunging everything into absolute darkness. In the oppressive blackness, a sickly green light began to emanate from the guest book on the coffee table. It pulsed, brighter now, illuminating the horrifying scene. My own name, Eleanor, was whispered from multiple directions. Frantically, I stumbled towards it, drawn by an irresistible, terrifying force. My hands, cold and clammy, fumbled with the pages until I reached the very last one. It was blank, pristine, waiting. But beneath the blank space, a fresh, looping message had appeared, written in a chilling, elegant script. "Welcome, you're one of us now." The words seemed to burn themselves into my mind, a horrifying invitation. The desperate voices surged, no longer whispers, but a cacophony of pleas and moans. Fleeting, ghostly forms coalesced in the room, their eyes fixed on me, their translucent hands reaching, urging me to write my name. Overwhelmed by a primal, soul-shattering terror, I refused. I wouldn't become another entry, another trapped soul. With a guttural scream, I hurled the glowing guest book across the room, sending it crashing into the wall. I didn't stop to grab anything else. Keys in hand, I bolted for the door, not daring to look back. The rain was torrential, but I didn't care. I fled into the stormy night, leaving the door wide open behind me. I drove for hours, the engine screaming, not stopping until the first faint light of dawn painted the sky. The horrifying images of those ghostly faces, their desperate pleas, were seared into my mind, a permanent scar. Weeks later, I'm safe in my own home, but deeply traumatized. I avoid old books, especially antique ones. Sometimes, late at night, I still hear faint whispers just at the edge of hearing, calling my name. My manuscript remains unfinished. I'm haunted by the thought of who found the guest book next, and whether my name is now etched within its cursed pages, a silent testament to the Airbnb guest book's whispers, waiting for the next unsuspecting soul. I'll never forget that night. This happened to me. Story 2. This happened to my family and me last summer. We rented an Airbnb, a charming old house deep in the woods, hoping for a peaceful escape. It felt wonderfully isolated at first. We'd barely unpacked when a woman, Mrs. Gable, appeared with a pie. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she beamed, her eyes a little too bright. Her smile felt fixed. Soon others followed. Mr. Henderson offered gardening tips, though we had no garden. Sarah, another neighbor, brought fresh-baked bread. Their hospitality was overwhelming, almost immediate. They were all so kind, yet their presence felt pervasive. Every morning, someone would wave as I got coffee. Every evening, a new treat appeared on our porch. My wife Emily found it sweet. "Small-town charm," she said, but I couldn't shake the feeling their warmth was a little too intense, a little too rehearsed. They knew our names, our kids' ages, even where we were from, without us telling them. "Oh, little Liam loves to draw, doesn't he?" Mrs. Gable once remarked, seeing him through the window. It was unnerving. Their smiles seemed to linger, their gazes following us even when we were inside. I started closing the curtains more often. One morning, Mr. Henderson greeted me. "Enjoy your run, did you?" I hadn't told anyone I ran. I just nodded, a knot forming in my stomach. The kids, bless their innocence, didn't notice. They loved the cookies and the attention. But for me, the idyllic vacation was slowly turning sour. I felt watched constantly. It wasn't just friendly curiosity, it was an unsettling awareness of our every move. The charming isolation now felt like a cage. The invitations became relentless: potlucks, community picnics, even a neighborhood storytelling evening. Refusing felt impossible, almost rude. Emily thought I was overreacting. "They're just friendly, honey," she'd say, but her own smile seemed a little strained lately, too. Their knowing glances started to feel like shared secrets we weren't privy to. A nod here, a wink there, always directed at each other when we were present. I started checking locks twice, pulling blinds down fully. My sleep became restless, filled with vague anxieties I couldn't articulate. One afternoon, while searching for a board game, I noticed a loose floorboard in the old study. Curiosity got the better of me. Beneath it, wrapped in yellowed cloth, were several leather-bound journals. They looked ancient, their pages brittle. The first journal detailed mundane events, then shifted to unsettling entries. Names of past Airbnb guests appeared, followed by phrases like "harvest blessings." I skimmed through. The Millers, "a good harvest"; the Changs, "a bountiful offering." The words sent a chill down my spine. Later, I noticed strange symbols carved into the living room's old stone fireplace. They weren't decorative, they felt ancient, almost primal. I cross-referenced the symbols with images online. They resembled obscure pagan runes, symbols associated with fertility rites and sacrifice. My mind raced. Could the journals and symbols be connected? Was this small town charm a facade for something far darker? I tried to talk to Emily, but she dismissed it as my overactive imagination. "It's an old house, honey. People used to believe in all sorts of things." That night, Liam, my youngest, came into our room. "Daddy," he whispered, "Mrs. Gable says we're special. She says we're chosen." Chosen for what? My blood ran cold. I hugged him tight, trying to reassure him, but I was terrified myself. The next morning, my daughter Mia said, "The neighbors were outside our window last night, Daddy," whispering. My heart pounded. That night, a sweet, cloying smell drifted through the house like decaying flowers and sickly sweet incense. It was nauseating. Then faint chanting began, a low, rhythmic hum, almost imperceptible but undeniably there, coming from the woods around us. Emily heard it too this time. Her face was pale. "What is that?" she whispered, clutching my arm. We tried to lock every window, every door, but the chanting, the smell, they seeped into the very fabric of the house. Sleep became impossible. Every creak, every rustle outside sent shivers down my spine. We were trapped in our peaceful retreat. I tried to call the Airbnb host, but the phone line was dead. Our cell service was spotty at best, utterly useless now. Driving out seemed the only option, but as I peered outside, I saw a familiar figure standing by our car, just watching. It was Mr. Henderson. He just stood there unmoving until dawn. We couldn't leave. The next morning, an ornate invitation arrived, the annual summer solstice celebration. It was written in a script similar to the journals. Mrs. Gable appeared moments later. "You simply must come. It's our most crucial community event," she insisted, her smile tight. Refusal was not an option. Her eyes held a chilling intensity. We felt compelled to accept. The celebration was held in a clearing deep in the woods. Lanterns hung from trees, music played, and everyone wore white. Initially, it seemed like a normal, if slightly eccentric, party. Kids played, adults laughed, but the sweet, cloying smell was stronger here. As dusk deepened, the laughter faded. The music changed, becoming a slow, rhythmic drumbeat. The neighbors began to gather. They donned cloaks, white hoods obscuring their faces. The chanting began, the same low hum we'd heard outside our Airbnb. Mrs. Gable, now robed, stepped forward. Her voice, though muffled by the hood, boomed. "The harvest is upon us. The blessing must be made." My blood ran cold. The journals, the symbols, the whispers, it all clicked into place with horrifying clarity. We were the blessing. They started moving towards us, their arms outstretched. Liam cried out. Emily screamed. Panic seized me. Run, I yelled, grabbing Emily's hand, pulling the kids with all my might. We plunged into the dark woods, the chanting and the drumbeats echoing behind us, growing louder, closer. Branches tore at our clothes, roots tripped us. We didn't stop, fueled by pure, unadulterated terror. I could hear their footsteps, the rustling of their cloaks. They were right behind us. We found a main road, a miracle. A car approached. I waved frantically, screaming for help. The driver, a young couple, stopped. We piled in, sobbing, telling our unbelievable story. The police dismissed it as a prank, a bad dream. The Airbnb, it's still listed, waiting for its next unsuspecting guests. I'll never forget that night. Story 3, this happened to me. I arrived in Seattle, eager for my business trip. The Airbnb looked perfect online, a charming escape in a quiet neighborhood. Its modern facade promised comfort and peace. I imagined peaceful evenings after long workdays. Little did I know, this seemingly perfect place held a sinister secret. The keyless entry chimed a welcoming tone as I stepped inside. The air was cool, the silence profound. I felt a fleeting sense of calm before the true terror began to unfold. My initial impression was overwhelmingly positive. The living room was spacious, the kitchen gleaming. I set my bags down, ready to embrace the week ahead, oblivious to the lurking horror. A quick tour revealed nothing immediately alarming. Everything seemed in order, just as advertised. I even sent a message to Alex, my host, expressing my thanks. Then the first subtle alteration caught my eye. The living room couch was a different color and style than in the listing photos. It was an odd detail. I dismissed it as minor redecoration, a common occurrence. Hosts change things sometimes, I told myself, pushing away the nascent feeling of unease. Later, I noticed an extra ornate mirror in the hallway, not visible in any online picture. Its gilded frame felt out of place with the modern decor. I felt a prickle of unease, a fleeting sensation of something being asterisk off asterisk. I tried to rationalize it away, blaming my tired mind, but the feeling lingered. A subtle feeling of wrongness persisted, a quiet hum beneath the surface. It wasn't alarming yet, just a persistent whisper in the back of my mind. Alex's first message after my arrival read, "Welcome, Emily, make yourself perfectly at home." It seemed polite, if a little formal. Then the messages became more frequent, checking in on my comfort. "How is your sleep tonight? The master bedroom is quite cozy, isn't it? Too personal. Are you comfortable in my house, Emily?" The wording felt subtly possessive, a claim I hadn't noticed before. It made me uneasy. Then came the cryptic remarks, "The house enjoys your presence, Emily." My blood ran cold. Who talks like that? It was deeply unsettling. I felt watched constantly, even through the screen. His messages were almost constant, a relentless digital presence that invaded my peace. He asked about details I hadn't shared, like my favorite tea. "I hope you found the chamomile, Emily." How could he possibly know that? The tone shifted from welcoming to subtly demanding, almost insistent. Each message felt less like an inquiry and more like an order. I tried ignoring them, putting my phone on silent, but the notifications kept buzzing, a relentless digital assault. There was no escape. Each message felt like an invasion, a violation of my personal space and privacy. The house felt less like a rental and more like a cage. "Don't you feel perfectly at home here, Emily?" A chilling demand, not a question. It echoed in my mind, a voice without a body. One morning, a worn, leather-bound book, not mine, appeared on my bedside table. I swore it wasn't there when I went to sleep. I rationalized maybe I brought it in my luggage, but I knew I hadn't. My memory was clear. This was impossible. Later, a window I distinctly remembered closing and latching was now slightly ajar. A cold draft snaked through the room. Checking all locks became a frantic ritual. My heart pounded with growing fear. Was someone entering the house, or was it something else? A cloying, unfamiliar scent filled the air like old dust mixed with something sickly sweet, almost floral. It clung to everything. I felt eyes on me constantly, even when utterly alone. A pervasive, unseen presence seemed to track my every move. A small ceramic bird on the mantelpiece, which had faced the room, was now turned to face the wall, its back towards me, a silent judgment. Was I losing my mind? Questioning my sanity became a daily, terrifying struggle. Each new anomaly chipped away at my grip on reality. The once peaceful silence now felt heavy, oppressive, menacing. Every creak of the house, every gust of wind sounded like a threat. Faint whispers just at the edge of hearing brushed against my ears. They were indistinct like static, yet clearly there, just beyond comprehension. In desperation, I tried calling Alex's listed number. It went straight to a dead voicemail, a chilling, empty silence greeting me. I sent urgent messages through the Airbnb app explaining the strange occurrences. No response. The silence from the platform was deafening. A frantic online search for Alex and the address yielded disturbing inconsistencies. Nothing matched. It was like he didn't exist. The real Alex in public records looked nothing like the profile picture. Or perhaps the true host was gone, replaced by something else entirely. A horrifying realization solidified. I wasn't communicating with the actual host. I was talking to whatever malevolent presence had hijacked this house. I tried the keyless entry to leave for groceries, desperate for fresh air. The code failed. It simply wouldn't work. Repeated attempts, frantic presses, the door remained stubbornly locked. I was trapped. The outside world felt miles away. Then Alex's message flashed on my phone. "You're not leaving, Emily. You're home." The words sent a jolt of pure terror through me. Panic surged through my veins. The apartment, once a temporary home, was now a suffocating prison. I was utterly, irrevocably trapped. The entity's messages grew explicitly possessive. "You belong to this house now, Emily. You are part of its fabric." I felt its cold embrace. Desperate, I searched every inch for any escape, any hidden way out. My eyes scanned for a weakness, a flaw in my prison. Behind a loose baseboard in the laundry room, I found a crumpled, faded child's drawing, tucked away like a secret. It depicted the house itself, but with menacing, glowing eyes and sharp, jagged teeth. The windows were gaping mouths, devouring everything. The chilling truth slammed into me with sickening force. The entity asterisk was asterisk the house. It wasn't a host, it was the building, alive and malevolent. The drawing confirmed my deepest fears, solidifying the nightmare. I was trapped inside a living, breathing monster, and it wanted me. Adrenaline coursed through my veins. I spotted a small, older window in the laundry room, less sealed than the others, my only chance. With desperate strength, I slammed my shoulder against it, then pried it open, splinters tearing at my hands. Pain was irrelevant. I scrambled out, cuts and bruises ignored, tumbling onto the cold, damp ground. Faint, angry whispers of "come back" pursued me into the night. I ran, called 911 from a safe distance. Authorities found nothing amiss inside the silent house, no forced entry, no evidence, just an empty Airbnb. Airbnb removed the listing, but the trauma remains. I'm forever haunted by the phantom host, still waiting, still watching for the next unsuspecting guest to claim. Story 4. Mark and I booked a secluded Airbnb with a private hot tub for our anniversary. We arrived, excited for a romantic, relaxing escape. It felt ideal. The cabin was beautiful, smelling of cedar. We dropped bags, envisioning evenings under the stars. The hot tub beckoned, our romantic getaway truly began. That first evening was pure bliss. In the hot tub, water perfectly warm, steam rising, stars twinkled above. Mark held me close. It felt like absolute peace I'll never forget. The jets massaged away every lingering tension. We talked and laughed completely at ease. The gentle hum was the only sound. This sanctuary was exactly what we needed. Perfect. The next day, we explored hiking trails. We planned another hot tub session for after dinner, eager for that warm embrace. A delightful anticipation filled our day. As dusk settled, we returned to the hot tub. The water was inviting just as before, with its familiar warmth, a perfect end to our day. Cooler air made it even more appealing. Then I felt it, a sudden distinct patch of unnaturally cold water against my leg. It was fleeting, gone quickly. I shivered slightly, dismissing it as a draft. Mark didn't seem to notice. "Just a cold spot," I mumbled, trying to convince myself. Mark just squeezed my hand, oblivious. The heater was on, water warm. It must be my imagination, nothing to worry about. Moments later, it happened again. This time, icy water washed over my back. It was undeniable. My breath hitched. This wasn't normal. Mark was gazing at stars, lost in thought. I tried to relax, but a subtle unease had settled in. The cold patches were too distinct. I kept my guard up. The peaceful atmosphere was tainted, replaced by creeping discomfort, unsettling. The next evening, the hot tub felt different. Something brushed my ankle, soft yet distinct, like a strand of hair. Nothing there. I pulled my leg back instinctively. My heart raced. Mark, noticing my sudden movement, asked, "Everything okay?" I mumbled, felt something peering into the water. He shrugged it off as a stray leaf, but I knew it wasn't. Later, as I leaned back, my reflection in the water seemed to momentarily distort. Grotesque, stretched features. It vanished instantly. My heart hammered. What was that? My sanity felt questioned. The whispers started then, faint, almost imperceptible, like gurgling water, yet distinct. They seemed to emanate from beneath the surface, a low, murmuring hum. They faded when I focused, terrifyingly real. "Did you hear that?" I whispered to Mark, my voice trembling. He looked at me, confused. "Hear what?" "The jets." He clearly heard nothing. I felt isolated in my fear. The incidents grew more frequent, more intense. Every dip into the hot tub filled me with dread. The cold spots were larger, the phantom touches more insistent. I felt watched. One evening, as I tried to relax, the water felt like it was actively trying to pull me deeper. A subtle, persistent tug on my legs. I gripped the edge, knuckles white. This wasn't normal. Then I started seeing them, fleeting, dark shapes just beneath the surface. Too quick to properly discern, but undeniably there. They seemed to dart around us. My mind screamed. Mark, initially skeptical, began to notice my increasing anxiety. He saw the genuine terror in my eyes. My fear was contagious. He found no logical explanations. This was real. We started avoiding the hot tub during the day, but the cabin felt small at night. The oppressive feeling seeped in. We couldn't ignore it much longer. The hot tub was calling. Feeling truly terrified, I spent hours on my laptop, searching. Airbnb haunted local legends. Mark joined me, grim-faced. We needed answers. The internet was our only hope. The results were vague, disturbing. Old forum posts, news archives, mentions of unexplained disappearances near bodies of water, unexplained drownings. A chilling pattern emerged. My blood ran cold. One thread spoke of previous guests at this very cabin who had vanished. Their belongings left behind. Police reports, closed cases. They hadn't left, they had been taken. The chilling implication was clear. Something malevolent resided here, connected to the water. A history. This place was a trap, the hot tub its hunting ground. We were just prey. We had to confront it, not to fight, but to understand, to witness. Mark, though terrified, agreed. Understanding might give us the strength to escape. It was a desperate, foolish plan. Armed with a flashlight and our phones, we approached the hot tub for the last time. The air felt heavy, charged. Every step was deliberate, hearts pounding. This was it. I gripped Mark's hand tightly. We lowered ourselves into the water, a wave of unnatural cold washing over us immediately. It was like an ice bath, not a heated tub. My teeth chattered, not just from cold. This was no malfunction. The water was frigid, biting, clinging to our skin. It felt alive, a malevolent embrace. The jets like icy currents trying to drag us under. Air grew heavy, oppressive silence. This was its domain. Then the phantom touches became forceful grips. I felt cold, slimy fingers wrap around my ankles, pulling. Mark cried out as something tightened around his waist. We thrashed. It was trying to drown us. I looked into the water, and there they were, our reflections overlaid with grotesque, watery faces, hollow eyes, gaping mouths reaching from the depths, shifting, coalescing horror. My scream caught. It wasn't just one face, it was many, swirling, merging, a collective consciousness of drowned souls controlled by an immense presence. The water itself was the entity, a liquid prison. Its intent claim us too. The faint whispers now became distinct voices in our minds, not words but sensations, cold, despair, endless darkness, promises of eternal rest, voices of the vanished urging us to join, overwhelming. We fought desperately, every muscle screamed as we pulled against the unseen force. The water felt thick, viscous, like liquid concrete holding us captive. Mark thrashed, a fight for our lives against something alien. The entity's strength was immense. It felt like being caught in a powerful undertow, relentless, suffocating. The cold was unbearable, paralyzing, my strength waning, lungs burning, darkness beckoning, terrifying. A wave of despair washed over me. We were going to die here like the others, our bodies part of this prison, souls absorbed. Tears mixed with icy water on my face. Hope slipped away. But then I saw Mark's eyes, wide with terror but also a flicker of defiance. He wouldn't give up. That spark ignited something in me. We couldn't let it win. One last, desperate effort. With a guttural scream, Mark pushed upwards with all his might. I mirrored his action, clawing at the edge. The entity seemed to falter, its grip loosened. It was our chance. We had to break free now. We scrambled over the edge, gasping for air, our bodies screaming in protest. Cold, wet air hit us, but it was nothing compared to the hot tub's embrace. We stumbled out, soaked, shivering, but free. We didn't look back, we sprinted across the deck. The hot tub seemed to hum, a low, malevolent thrum vibrating through the night. The cabin door was our only salvation. Get inside, away from *it**. Inside, we slammed the door shut, fumbling with the lock, our hands shaking uncontrollably. We leaned against it, panting. Silence, but a predator's silence waiting beyond the glass. We were far from safe. This happened to me. There was no thought of packing. Our belongings were insignificant. We grabbed keys, phones, and ran for the car. The cabin, once a haven, was now a tomb. We left everything behind. The drive away was a blur of tears and raw terror. Mark sped. We didn't speak. Watery faces, icy grip, whispers. It was all burned into our minds. We just needed to escape. I'll never forget that night. Weeks turned into months, but the trauma lingered. Sleep was elusive, plagued by nightmares of cold water, grasping hands. The memory was a constant shadow. We were safe, but permanently scarred. This happened to me. Hot tubs became symbols of dread. Even showers felt unsettling. Large bodies of water lakes, oceans filled us with irrational fear. The thought of submersion, pulling under, sent shivers. Water corrupted itself for us. The sound of bubbles, even from a boiling pot, triggered panic. It reminded me of the hot tub's incessant hum, its malevolence, every gentle gurgle a whisper, every ripple a phantom touch. I'll never forget. We still wonder about the vanished guests. Were their souls truly trapped? Did they suffer the same fate? The questions gnawed, our near demise, their actual demise. We escaped, they hadn't, a constant haunting. What asterisk was asterisk it? An ancient spirit, a collective of the drowned. We never found answers, only terrifying theories. A primal force, predator of souls, tied to that hot tub. The unknowability was terrifying. We knew it was still there, waiting for its next victims, for another couple seeking escape, oblivious. A fresh wave of dread. We were lucky to break the cycle. It waits. The experience shattered our sense of security. Safety, we learned, was an illusion, especially in tranquil places. World held hidden horrors lurking unexpectedly. Our romantic getaway became nightmare, a stark lesson. And so we live with the scars, forever changed by the Airbnb hot tub's embrace. We tell our story, hoping to warn others. Who would believe us? It's waiting. Sometimes late at night, I swear I can hear the faint gurgle of water calling. Story 5. Liam's 30th birthday called for a secluded Catskills Airbnb. 6 of us arrived, excited for the weekend. But the sprawling house felt unnaturally still, the air heavy, almost watchful. A strange chill ran down my spine the moment we stepped inside. We unloaded our bags, the silence inside thicker than expected. It swallowed our laughter, making it sound hollow. I remember thinking it was just the vastness, but a prickling sensation on my neck suggested otherwise. This happened to me. Later, while settling in, I noticed a door to a linen closet slightly ajar. I was sure I'd closed it earlier. A minor detail, easily dismissed, but it lodged in my mind. The house felt like it was breathing around us. That first evening, as we gathered for drinks, a faint whisper drifted from upstairs. It sounded like someone calling my name, barely audible. Everyone else claimed they heard nothing. I blamed the wind, but felt a shiver. The next morning, a trivial argument erupted between Ben and Chloe over who left a mug out. Their voices, usually lighthearted, were sharper, disproportionately angry. It felt amplified, almost encouraged by the house's oppressive atmosphere. Liam, usually the calmest, snapped at Sarah for a minor comment. His outburst was uncharacteristic, his eyes flashing with an unfamiliar intensity. A palpable tension began to weave its way through our group, tightening its grip. Chloe mentioned feeling constantly watched, even when alone in her room. Ben scoffed, but I saw the unease in her eyes. This wasn't just weekend jitters, something was subtly, insidiously unsettling us all. My own phone, fully charged, suddenly died and wouldn't restart. Later, it simply worked again. Small glitches, easily explained away, but they accumulated, chipping away at our sense of normalcy. I'll never forget that night. That night, I woke to what sounded like muffled voices downstairs. I crept to the landing, straining to hear, but the house was silent. A profound, heavy silence, as if it had swallowed the sounds whole. My heart pounded. The next morning, Liam accused Ben of moving his car keys as a prank. Ben vehemently denied it, their voices rising. The keys reappeared later on a shelf where no one would have put them, fueling their mutual suspicion. Sarah, usually pragmatic, admitted to seeing shadows move in her peripheral vision. She dismissed it as tiredness, but her voice lacked conviction. We were all starting to doubt our own perceptions and each other. A pervasive cold seeped into the house despite the thermostat being cranked. It was a bone-deep chill that no amount of heating could dispel, making us huddle together, yet feeling increasingly distant. Objects began to move. A book I'd left on my bedside table was found downstairs in the living room. No one admitted to touching it. We started accusing each other, the trust between us fraying rapidly. The air in the house grew heavy, thick with unspoken grievances. Every minor annoyance became a full-blown conflict. It felt as if an invisible force was magnifying our negative emotions, feeding on our discord. Chloe swore she heard me say something cruel about her in my sleep. I vehemently denied it, insisting I'd been silent. Her hurt look, however, made me doubt my own memory. The house was turning us against each other. Liam started whispering angrily to an empty corner of the living room, convinced Ben had insulted him. His eyes were wild. We tried to calm him, but he was lost in a manufactured reality, trapped by the house's influence. Our attempts to rationalize or dismiss the occurrences grew weaker. The casual jokes about ghosts ceased. Fear, cold and insidious, began to replace our initial annoyance, cementing a horrifying realization. We decided to leave immediately. Liam grabbed his car keys, but they vanished from his hand. We searched frantically, turning the house upside down, but they were gone. A cold dread settled over us. Ben's phone GPS malfunctioned, showing us driving in circles on the map, even when we knew we were heading straight. The same stretch of road reappeared again and again. The house was physically trapping us. We returned to the Airbnb, defeated, the terrifying truth sinking in. The house wasn't just influencing us, it was actively preventing our escape. Its malevolent intelligence was undeniable now, its gaze consuming. On the final night, the tension was unbearable. Liam and Ben's argument escalated into a shouting match, threatening violence. The air crackled with their fury, and the house responded as if eager for the climax. Lights flickered wildly, then died, plunging us into darkness. A guttural groan, deep and resonant, echoed through the walls, shaking the very foundations of the house. It sounded ancient, hungry. In the sudden darkness, an antique mirror in the living room began to glow with an internal, sickly light. Its surface rippled, reflecting not our terrified faces, but a vast, consuming darkness that pulsed. The darkness in the mirror was alive, a malevolent hunger radiating from it. We saw it then, the entity that had been feeding on our fear and discord, its ancient gaze fixed upon us. This truly happened to me. Panic seized us. We didn't speak, didn't look back. We just ran, out of the house into the night, fumbling for the car that now miraculously started. We drove, not knowing where, only away. The memory of that mirror, the hatred the house cultivated, is etched into my mind. We never spoke of it again, a silent, unspoken pact, but the silence couldn't erase the feeling. Even now, years later, I feel its gaze. A prickling sensation, a lingering cold. I wonder if any of us truly escaped, or if a part of that hungry house still lives within us, waiting for discord to bloom again. The week before, anticipation had buzzed, planning Liam's milestone. We'd chosen the Airbnb for its rustic charm and isolation, thinking it perfect for reconnecting. Oh, how wrong we were. Upon arrival, the air was unusually still, not just quiet, but a profound absence of natural sounds. No birdsong, no rustling leaves, just the hum of our car, which felt deafening in the unnatural hush. Inside, the antique furniture seemed to watch us, its polished surfaces reflecting dim light like eyes. Every floorboard creaked with an intentionality that made me uneasy. It felt less like a house, more like a dormant beast. Our first night, the fireplace roared, but the warmth barely reached us. A pocket of icy air clung to the corners of the room, persistent and chilling. We joked about drafts, but our smiles felt forced. Chloe found her favorite mug shattered on the kitchen floor the next morning. No one admitted to dropping it. The first crack in our camaraderie appeared, a seed of suspicion planted by unseen hands. Liam's usual easygoing nature began to fray. He grew irritable, snapping at trivial comments. We attributed it to stress, but his eyes held an unfamiliar, almost manic glint. Something was changing him. Sarah's phone battery drained impossibly fast, even when unused. Then her laptop screen flickered with static, displaying distorted faces. She panicked, convinced it was a virus, but I felt it was something far worse. We started hearing faint, unidentifiable noises, soft scuttling in the walls, distant sighs, the rustle of fabric when no one was there. The house was no longer just still, it was subtly, actively alive. Ben swore he heard his name called from an empty room. He went to investigate, returning pale and shaken, refusing to elaborate. The house was isolating us, picking us off one by one with its psychological tricks. My own dreams became vivid, terrifying nightmares of being trapped, chased by unseen shadows within the house's labyrinthine corridors. I woke up screaming, the fear clinging to me like a shroud. The air grew thick with unspoken accusations. We began to eye each other suspiciously, wondering who was truly playing tricks. The house thrived on this mistrust, its unseen presence growing stronger with every bitter glance. Liam became convinced Ben was sabotaging his belongings. He found his phone hidden in a shoe, his wallet under a mattress. Ben denied it, but Liam's fury was unstoppable. Their friendship fractured. Chloe started whispering to herself, nervously tidying objects that were already neat. She kept muttering about making it happy, a chilling phrase that made my blood run cold. The house was possessing her mind. We decided in a rare moment of unity to leave en masse. We packed quickly, fear overriding all other emotions. But as we reached the door, it slammed shut, locking itself with a resounding thud. We tried windows, but they were jammed, refusing to budge. The phone lines were dead. Our phones had no signal. We were utterly isolated, completely at the mercy of the house's malevolent will. The house began to play with us, shadows dancing in our peripheral vision, whispers turning into taunts. It was enjoying our terror, feasting on our despair, growing stronger with every shared glance of fear. The arguments between Liam and Ben became a furious crescendo. Accusations flew, words laced with genuine hatred. The house vibrated, a low, thrumming sound emanating from deep within its structure. Suddenly, a profound silence descended. The vibrating stopped. The lights, which had been flickering, steadied, bathing the living room in an unnatural, sickly green glow. The air became impossibly cold. The antique mirror, previously unremarkable, began to ripple, not like water, but like a window into another dimension. A swirling vortex of pure darkness formed within its polished surface, drawing all light inward. From the depths of the blackness, two pinpricks of malevolent red light appeared, growing, solidifying into eyes. A vast, formless entity began to coalesce, its presence radiating pure, ancient hunger. It was watching us. A guttural roar, not from the house, but from asterisk within asterisk the mirror, shook the very foundations of our sanity. It was the sound of ultimate consumption, of a predator finally revealing itself. We ran. We fled, not speaking, not looking back. The car inexplicably started. We drove until dawn, until the sun's weak light felt like a blessing. We never discussed what we saw, but the silence was deafening. Years have passed, but the memory of that consuming gaze, the hatred the house cultivated, remains. Sometimes, in moments of anger, I feel a familiar chill, wondering if a part of that hungry house still lives within us, waiting.